If I could get your attention, please, we're going to start the program here in just a moment. If you could please take your seats. In just a moment, we'll be introducing the candidates and get starting with tonight's forum.
It's like you don't have your Ann Taylor suit on.
Right? No, I just got my old sport coat here.
Yeah.
Wow, you really do follow directions well. Yeah, this time, at least for now. I'm going to turn a little bit this way. All right, are we ready to start? I want to check with the bosses. Are we ready to roll? We ready to go?
We're ready to go.
Okay, I want to welcome everyone to the Mesa Public Schools Governing Board Candidate Forum. My name is Mike Broomhead. I'll serve as your moderator tonight. I'd like to welcome all the candidates. I'm going to introduce them in the order they were drawn. Just a little while ago, we drew randomly the order we will go in questions, which I will explain in just a moment. But in the order that they were drawn, we'll start with Jacob Martinez. You can applaud if you want to. Feel free. J.R. Wright. Rachel Walden. Ray Deere. Marcy Hutchinson. Ed Steele. And Chris Hamlin. All right, I want to review the format tonight. I'm going to ask a series of questions of the candidates about topics important to the Mesa community. For each question, 2 candidates will have 2 minutes to answer. Then the rest of the candidates will have 1 minute to answer, and it will alternate throughout the night so that each candidate has an opportunity at one time or another to answer 2 minutes. You'll follow along as we go. We've done everything we can as painstakingly as we can to make it fair. There are a few questions in here we're calling lightning round questions, where all candidates will only have 1 minute to answer that question. The only thing we ask, please silence your cell phones. If you don't mind, make sure your cell phones are silent. And be respectful is the only thing that we ask. Cheer for the candidates that you like. We're going to ask people to be respectful of each other. I don't imagine that's going to be an issue, but they just wanted me to make sure and say it. So with that, let's get started with tonight's candidate forum. So starting here in the order that they were drawn, we are going to ask question number 1, starting with Jacob Martinez, and then we will go to J.R. Wright. Question number 1, every candidate gets 1 minute. Why did you choose to run for the school board?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'd like to thank first off the Chamber of Commerce for hosting tonight and to Mike Broomhead for moderating for us tonight. You know, this is a question you get asked so much during this time period, and I really just can't say nothing more than Mesa Public Schools did so much for me. It acted as a foundation to be able to, go off and start a small business, join the military, go to ASU, and that's not those are not things that I would have been able to do had it not been for Mesa Public Schools and the teachers and the staff that were there to support me for my entire time in the K-12 system. But I acknowledge that not all of our students have those opportunities or they can get access to resources and what they need in order to be successful. And so I want to make sure that all of our students have access to what they need to go off and live a solid life, because not only is that beneficial for the student and their life, but also for our community and making sure we're putting out a highly educated and skilled workforce so that not just our schools are thriving, but our community and the city that we all love, Mesa, is thriving as well.
Thank you. Next, the same question to J.R. Wright.
Thank you. It's great to be with everybody tonight. I would say the biggest reason I'm running for school board is I firmly believe that strong schools produce strong communities. And I would love to be part of a school board that creates environments so that our students and our teachers can thrive, so that our students can become great citizens of our great city in Mesa. I was encouraged by people I trust to run for the school board, and at first I was a little hesitant, but as I have gone throughout the district, as I have talked with teachers and administrators, I am energized by what's happening in Mesa Public Schools. I think there's a trust issue with our administration and teachers and public schools in general, which I don't think is warranted. And I want to be a champion to promote all the great things that are happening in Mesa Public Schools. And I know that I can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, same question. Why did you run for the school board? Rachel Walden.
I ran for the school board because I love Mesa and I love this community. And I looked at my daughter last year in 2021, and she was going to be turning 5 and starting kindergarten. And I worried about who her friends were going to be and what kind of future she was going to have. We saw so much learning loss from the shutdowns. We have so many children that are behind where they should be in English language arts and math, and those subjects are so important as the primary drivers of all future learning. I also saw so many examples of students over the years that have lost that love for America and patriotism, that don't seem to have gratitude for the freedoms that have been given to them. And I wanted to run so I could bring us back to a focus on academic excellence and give our parents a school in their community that they can feel good about sending their kids to. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, Ray Deere.
Thank you for the question, and thank you to the Mesa Chamber of Commerce. I'm Ray Deere. I'm running for school board because I believe during this school year, I believe that experience matters. I'm a former teacher at Keno, Fremont, and Taylor junior high schools. I was in the trenches, so to speak, and I know the day-to-day routine that our teachers go through, and working with the administrators, with students, and with parents is very vital. I will bring that experience to the Mesa School Board. I'm also a former school board member for my native community, Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community for Salt River Schools. I was the secretary and vice chair, so I'll be able to hit the ground running, so to speak, if elected to the school board. Also, I'm an associate judge for my tribal community, Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community. I'm a fact finder by profession. I will listen to all voices and be able to get the best decision for all of our children. So thank you.
Thank you. Why did you run for the school board? Next to answer is Marcy Hutchinson.
Hello, I'd like to thank the Chamber as well for this opportunity to have civil discourse with our candidates. I run because Mesa Public Schools is the heart of our community. Public education is the economic engine. It makes possible a more fulfilling life for all of us. Public education is also the pillar of democracy. It secures our freedoms. And public education unleashes the power that allows us to become all we are capable of being. It gives us the freedom to seize opportunities and to lead more fulfilling lives. Why keep me on the school board? I have the experience as a teacher, as a parent, as a governing board member. I am committed to our promise, and I will work with anyone and everyone to assure that promise for every kid in Mesa.
Thank you. Next to answer will be Ed Steele.
I want to say thank you to the Chamber as well, and thank you, Mike, for moderating this event. I've lived in Mesa for 34 years. My wife and I have lived here 34 years. In 3 weeks, we'll celebrate our 35th wedding anniversary. My children attended the schools here in Mesa, and I have grandchildren in the district currently. I'm concerned with what's going on in our schools. Right now, English language arts and math proficiency is under 50%. And while we can blame that on COVID to some degree, the fact is, for the last 10 years, this district has struggled to get at least 50%, and generally has been under that. For the most part, the district board and superintendency have all been from the education industry. I want to bring a fresh perspective. I'm an engineer and a former business owner. I know how to manage people, money, and resources to achieve outstanding results. I'll bring that skill to the board.
Thank you. And finally, to answer the question, why did you choose to run for the school board, Chris Hamlet?
Well, I'm a single parent. I've lived in Mesa for the past 17 years. I'm on my second child at Mesa High. I realized far too late that the education system, the public education system, was failing our children. And I didn't find out until my daughter was in 9th grade here at Mesa High. And I had her tested and realized that she was severely lacking in her academics. And at that point, I realized, obviously I was asleep at the wheel as a parent, but this system is not designed to educate these children properly. I chose to dig into the curriculum at that point and get involved with my son's curriculum, get involved with the school SIACs, get involved with Mesa City Council or Mesa Parent Council, so that I can stop this indoctrination of our children so that I can protect them. It's because I refuse to fail my son the same way I failed my daughter, and I refuse to fail any of the children in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we move into the format, just changes a little bit. The first two candidates' names I call will have 2 minutes to answer this question. The other candidates in order will have 1 minute to answer. So Jacob Martinez and Ray Deere will have each 2 minutes to answer this, starting with Mr. Martinez. In your opinion, this is for all candidates though, in your opinion, what are the district's greatest strengths and weaknesses? Mr. Martinez, 2 minutes.
Thank you. I think, time and time again, we'll say this, the greatest strength that Mesa Public Schools has is our people. Without the people that we have running our schools, whether it be teachers or classified staff, we are nothing but empty buildings without our people. And so that goes hand in hand with what we need to work on, because we really need to make sure that we're supporting our people if we're going to have quality schools and quality places for our students to learn. And that starts with positive environments. The last 2 years have proven that it's unveiled the issue of mental health in our community. The issue that, students' suicide rates and depression rates are soaring right now. And that's something that we just can't stand and be complacent with and allow to happen while, some of our most useful and powerful students are falling victim to this. And so as a district, one of our biggest problems, and one thing we really need to work on, is supporting our students with mental health support. And that starts with students, and it goes to staff, and it goes with everyone in our community. Because we need to make sure that we're fostering a positive environment. Because not only does that make sure that they're having a good experience and are taken care of and feel like they're cared about in the short term, but then long term, it turns around, and then how do we address a teacher shortage? By paying them more, but two, by having positive environments that they want to work in. And so by making sure that we have those environments and students see those environments, then we'll make sure that we have a constant feed and cycle of students and people who want to come back and be in Mesa Public Schools. Because as the largest district in the state, we should be championing these issues and really leading the way in ensuring that we are a positive and amazing place to work.
Thank you. Same question, in your opinion, what are the district's greatest strengths and weaknesses? Ray Deere.
All right, thank you for the question. As a former teacher in Mesa Public Schools, I was able to have access to great school personnel. On day one, administration was able to help me and direct me to the correct resources within the school site. I was able to work on teams that were very helpful. And also I was able to collaborate with our teams. And it was a joint effort between all the different entities at each school site. So I was very grateful for the school personnel and their willingness to help out at all levels. With regards to weaknesses, I'm also a parent. My wife and I recently celebrated our 24th anniversary, and we have learned and gone through the Mesa public school systems with our children. And over the years, I found out there's a lot of strife, a lot of fights, bickering within our students. And again, it goes into mental health. As an associate judge, I preside over civil matters. I work with children all my life at the middle school level. I found out that every child needs a predictable environment. Study after study shows if you can provide a predictable environment, including the home and also at school, you can most likely all these emotional issues and mental health will go by the wayside. Although, granted, there are some medical issues that will come into play, but overall, our children will know that there's consequences to their actions. Administration and teachers will work together and know that there's a game plan for any disruptive behavior within each school district. And then you turn in your school site into a predictable environment, one that's a learning environment. So there has to be a paradigm shift. And I think my breadth of experience working with children will bring that to the school board. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question. Now, these candidates in order will have 1 minute to answer the same question. In your opinion, what are the district's greatest strengths and weaknesses, starting with J.R. Wright?
I would say some of our biggest strengths, one of the biggest strengths is our size. Our size allows us to have a voice at the legislature. It allows us to innovate, to be competitive, to try new things. Our size allows us to invest in lots of choices for parents and give parents lots of opportunities and choices that they need, because not every kid learns the same way, and different schools have different programs, and we give flexibility to schools and principals to set up programs that they need to set up. So I think our size is one of our biggest strengths. I think another big strength is just the tradition that we have in the Mesa community, the community involvement. Mesa cares that Mesa Public Schools succeeds, and we have great partnerships in the city of Mesa with Boeing and Dexcom and Banner and a variety of other companies, and so just the fact that we have all of these resources and partnerships makes Mesa Public Schools a great place to be.
Thank you. Same question for Rachel Walden.
So our teachers are one of our greatest strengths. They try to teach to the individual and know each child individually. And I've gotten to know a lot of teachers over this last year and a half since I've been regularly attending the school board meetings. And I'm really impressed with their dedication to their job. Our other strength is I've learned from the board meetings that I've been attending, we've got a really good focus on retaining employees. I've heard this board speak with very much a lot of consideration for the employees of the district, not just teachers, but the bus drivers and other support staff. And there's also a good focus. The third one they're doing really well is focus on getting new teachers and new talent into the district, because we are facing a teacher shortage, and we've got to look at what we can do to bring in new employees for that. Things that we can change, the focus on learning loss. We need in-person tutoring. They're not going to get caught up in class time alone. We also need more transparency in the district, and also curriculum that doesn't have to change every year to take the burden off our teachers.
Thank you. Same question for Marcy Hutchinson.
I think our greatest strength is our people, because our people reflect this community. This community believes in public education. And whether our educators are our classified employees or our certified employees, they are committed to our promise that we will know every student by name, we will serve them by strength and need, and we will graduate them ready for college, career, and community. They are pledged to that, and we have employees who have our multi-generational families who work for Mesa Public Schools. Our commitment of this community is reflected in, yes, we're the biggest district, but we're the biggest little district, really. We are a family. And this family cares for one another, and we desperately care for our children. And I've seen it every day, every classroom, every hour in Mesa Public Schools.
Thank you. Same question as to the district's greatest strengths and weaknesses, Ed Steele.
Yeah, I concur. The people in this district, the employees, the staff, and the teachers are definitely the greatest strength. Since I've been a candidate, I've spoken to many teachers. They're all concerned with what's going on, and they're all putting their heart into their job every single day, and it shows. I think the biggest weakness is weak leadership and a lack of accountability. If we had strong leadership, we would not have the failure rate in the English language arts and math that we have. We also need accountability. I've been watching the programs that come before the board for votes, and they're getting voted in. And my question is, how will this program advance the academic outcome of our students? And I'm seeing very little to no accountability on that respect. That's got to be brought back into this district.
Thank you. And finally, to answer the question, 1 minute, Chris Hamlet.
So I have to agree as far as the biggest strength, it is the teachers. I've been on the campaign trail for a little over a year now, and the teachers are amazing. That said, that brings me into the biggest issue, because this is the stuff they don't want to deal with. And the biggest issue here is the polarized politics in the schools. the hypersexualization of our children, allowing the CRT, social emotional learning, SABRs, risk screeners, and all this nonsense into our schools. We need to get back to the business of educating our children. Having all this stuff in the school just gives the appearance of political theater every month when we have meetings in here. Nothing ever gets done for our children. People need to stand up and understand that our children are being indoctrinated. The sexual immorality that's being introduced in our schools is here in Mesa Public Schools, and if you want to look it up, go to Mesa Public Schools website, and in the search engine, type in the word queer, and you can click on Dobson High School, and you can see it for yourself this evening before you leave this room. So we need to get these polarized policies and politics out of the schools.
Thank you. Moving on to the third question. Now candidates number 2 and number 5 will each have 2 minutes to respond. All of the other candidates in order will have 1 minute. Here is the question for all candidates. Is there something that Mesa Public Schools are not presently doing that you believe will significantly improve educational quality? Starting with J.R. Wright, 2 minutes.
Well, I would say one of the things that that I think we can do better is evaluate, come up with systems to be able to evaluate our teachers, not because we're scrutinizing them per se, but I think we need to come up with a formula, way to measure their results individually in classrooms. And I think there's technology now. I think there's advances in technology and software that we can do a better job of advancing the programs that the teachers develop for our children and execute for our children, and see the valid results of those efforts. I also think we need to do a much better job of promoting all the great things that are happening in Mesa Public Schools. To me, Mesa Public Schools is the best kept secret in Mesa. We don't tout that enough. We don't promote that enough. I work in advertising. That's one of my biggest strengths, I think, on the board would be that I know how to promote things. I know how to make things larger than life. And I think there's so much good that's happening in Mesa Public Schools that people just don't know about. I was at my school at Westwood High School this week in a group for one of my sons, and they talked about how can we get this word out to parents of all these great things that we're doing. And we kind of came up with the answer. It's a difficult thing to do. We need to create more promotional material and be able to get those things out through videos and different things. So I just think promoting the great things that are happening in Mesa Public Schools is something we can do a lot better.
Thank you. I'll read the question again. We're going to candidate number 5, Marcy Hutchinson. The question is there something specific that Mesa Public Schools are not presently doing that you believe would significantly improve educational quality if they were doing it?
One of the things about being the biggest district in the state is that we have 9,000 employees. We have 54,000 kids with their parents. This is a very large district, and communication is a problem. I think we've done a pretty good job in communicating the goals of the district. In COVID, the parents told me that they felt that they were informed, that the district did a really good job. I think, though, we need to tell our story better. We have graduates, we have employees, and we're starting to do this. I noticed the district is doing a Facebook where employees are picked out and they tell their story about Mesa Public Schools and how they grew as an employee in Mesa Public Schools. I'd like to see more of that. I would like to see two-way communication. So many times when parents attend meetings, they are talk-at-you meetings. I'm hoping that we have more talk-with-you meetings, that we check in with people and we don't talk at them. Because the more we know about what our students and our parents and our community want, the better decisions we can make. And I think with technology, we're going to be able to do that better. But we desperately need to make sure we are listening to our community, whether they be students, parents, teachers, staff. We need to hear the voices of Mesa and make sure that we are the Mesa Public Schools and we represent this public. More two-way communication is what I'd like to see.
Thank you. We will now go back to candidate number one. Each of the remaining candidates in order will have 1 minute to answer the same question. Is there something that Mesa Public Schools is not presently doing that you believe would significantly improve the educational quality if it was doing it, starting with Jacob Martinez?
Thank you. There's nothing more important, especially in a district as large as Mesa, with over 60,000 students and a city that spans, so large. There's nothing more important than being diligent about the communities that we're serving. And right now it's really difficult to, almost apply a cookie cutter approach. But that's not the community we live in, and that's not the reality that we live in. We didn't make sure we're mindful of the individual communities that we're serving, the diversity, the racial and financial and vast diversity that we see here in Mesa. Make sure we're mindful of that and keeping that at the forefront of our decision-making process. And that's how we are going to make sure we're fostering those positive environments and making sure that we continue to have people be here. But it starts by having that open line of communication and ensuring that we're bringing our community in and we're having those important conversations, because there's so much lack of trust right now within the community, and we need to make sure we're doing everything we can to rebuild that bridge and continue to make Mesa Public Schools the best place to work and to come to school.
Thank you. Same question, 1 minute, Rachel Walden.
So we need to address that we have so many children that are failing in the basic fundamentals of learning. I am a supporter of tutoring, and that could be after school tutoring. It could also be something that happens in the classroom where we give the teachers the ability to form students into groups based on where their areas of need are. We also have to take the burdens off of the teachers. They are there to teach. But I'm hearing that they are doing these assessments, they're doing checklists, they have their reading time interrupted so that the principal or someone from the school can check up on them and make sure that they're hitting all these different points. We need to trust them to teach those fundamentals and allow them to use their skills to do that the way that they see best fit to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question for Ray Deere, 1 minute, sir.
Thank you for the question. I believe we can implement accountability at all levels. As I go on the campaign trail, I go door to door talking with the community members. And I've run into a lot of Mesa Public Schools personnel, and they want a voice. One issue that I would implement as a school board member is servant leadership at the highest level with our superintendency, our principals, and administrators at each school site. Servant leadership allows, it kind of turns the table, so to speak, that the voice of the school personnel, security guards, our cafeteria workers, our teachers, teacher assistants, all of them at that level will have a voice, and as to where the administration will look at them and have their voice heard and implement what they want in their school site and at their school site. And so servant leadership is one issue that I will help implement at the school board level.
Thank you. I'll read the question again. Is there something that Mesa Public Schools is not presently doing that you believe would significantly improve educational quality if it were doing it? This question, 1 minute for Ed Steele.
I think there are three things that need to happen. First is accountability. When I'm on the board, I'm going to ask this question over and over and over. How will this decision improve the educational outcome of our students? Number two, teacher appreciation. There was a survey recently that indicated 2,500 respondents in Maricopa County. 78% reported severe or extreme stress on the job. These are our teachers. And what's worse is 60% of those said the district is not doing enough to help mitigate that stress. We've got to change that. We already have a teacher shortage crisis. We don't need to be adding to it by not taking care of our teachers. The third thing we need to do is foster an environment of parental involvement. That's one of the biggest indicators of success in schools, is getting the parents involved. I was here at this district meeting Tuesday. Besides 5 people that got an award, I was the only one sitting in the audience. We've got to get our parents involved.
Thank you. And finally, to answer the question, 1 minute, Chris Hamlet.
Involving the parents is key. And Marcy said something a little while ago about involving the parents, but since I've been running for a school board, we used to be able to stand at that podium, and when it was public comment as parents, they would hear us. They would listen to it. Well, they would at least hear us. And it was all recorded and the camera was on us. But it seems since this election cycle, they moved the camera off of us and give us excuses as to privacy or whatever that may be. But they're taking our voice away. They're not showing it. So people online, they don't get to see the parents that are talking. So it's kind of disrespectful that we walk up here and we're not seen as a valuable stakeholder. And the parents are the most important key portion to get this education back on track and get these woke policies out of the school. We must get these woke policies out of the school, and we must get this these dress codes enforced and get some structure. The teachers are not allowed to enforce anything. They're not allowed to teach properly. They have to teach this woke curriculum. So we need to get rid of that.
Thank you. All right, question number 4 is one of those lightning round questions. Every candidate is going to have 1 minute to answer this question. Since we started at the beginning, and if you're not confused, explain it to me because I'm confused. But we are going to start with candidate number 3 and then go in order and end with candidate number 2. Here is the question, 1 minute each, starting with Rachel Walden. What sets you apart from the other candidates seeking governing board positions?
Well, I've been a resident of the district for more than 30 years, and I came out of the Mesa public school system, so I know this city very well. I also have a unique background in both education and my work experience. I went to ASU and then to graduate school. When I was there at the university, I was hired as a teaching assistant. I also was taught postmodern theory, which is what today's critical race theory is. So I know what critical theories look like. I know how to identify it in curriculum. Then in my work experience, for 10 years, I managed clients that are some of the most recognized names in America. And in that business, I worked with legal counsel. I performed audits. I had to write policies to gain efficiencies and navigate government regulations. Those are really important skills that I'll be able to bring to the board so that I can write effective policies for our district and also look for ways that we can reduce administrative burden or reduce redundancies.
Thank you. What sets you apart from other candidates seeking a governing board position? Ray Deere will answer next.
Thank you. As I stated in the beginning, experience matters. I hold a master's degree in education. I taught 12 years at the middle school level. I'm also currently, as stated before, associate judge, which is my job to hold people accountable. And I also invite good arguments and opinions. I believe that the Mesa School Board and each school site must be an environment that's calm, cool, and collected, the 3 C's I like to call it. If we can get that throughout our environment at each school site, I believe that we will be able to implement all the procedures and policies and everything that we have at the school board and implement it in the proper way. I also, as I stated, a former school board member for Salt River Schools, and I will be able to understand open public meeting laws and procedures and policies and reviewing budgets. I have done that in the past. I've written IEPs for my students, and I've addressed parental concerns in a timely, succinctly manner. And so I believe this is very vital at the school board level.
Thank you. Same question for Marcy Hutchinson.
I'm experienced. I'm an experienced educator. I have been a governing board member for the past 3.5 years. I was on the history faculty at ASU directing their K-12 initiatives. I was a high school history teacher in the district for 28 years. I have 2 daughters who are Red Mountain graduates, K-12 public school educated here in Mesa. I'm committed. I'm committed that every kid deserves a great education, and they deserve to learn in a safe and healthy school. I believe that they must be engaged in meaningful, real-life learning that meets their strengths and needs. Learning has to be purposeful. They need to be served by professional educators and dedicated support personnel. As a board member, I've learned to listen, to be collaborative and work with board members, and work for community partnerships that strengthen our schools.
Thank you. What sets you apart from other candidates seeking a board position? Ed Steele, 1 minute.
I think there's no lack of education, experience, and credentials sitting on the board or a superintendency. I think what's lacking is perspectives from different viewpoints. I'm going to bring my engineering degree, my methodical, analytical, problem-solving skills to the board. I really think that's lacking. I really think it would benefit the decision-making process at the board. It's going to benefit the programs that are brought into this district. I've also got the background of my business ownership. You know, I manage personnel. I understand that. I manage budgets. You know, when you own your own business, failure is not an option. We've got failure in this district, and it just goes unaddressed. We've got to address it. We've got to get to the failure is not an option position.
Thank you. 1 minute, Chris Hamlet.
Well, what sets me apart is I actually have skin in the game. And then 5 years ago, to have my children that far apart, I was able to start digging into the curriculum then, and I reverse engineered it all the way up to the teachers associations and the CDC, which is where most of this garbage originates from, just so you're all aware. And so I have analytical skills that allowed me to reverse engineer this system and follow it up the chain to find out where it all originates from. Having skin in the game, and so my failure actually is what sets me aside. I failed my daughter so miserably by not paying attention and finding out so late in the game that she was so far behind that helped me, that drove me to not let that happen to my son. I also have leadership skills from the military. I was a sergeant in the Army in the 82nd Airborne Division, and I went to school at DeVry University. I have a bachelor's in technical management. I ran crews from 5 to 35 employees in a top telecommunications company in Phoenix. So I have analytical skills and leadership skills and can run large crews.
Thank you. We now go to Jacob Martinez, 1 minute.
Thank you. Well, in addition to being a graduate from Mesa Public Schools and a recent graduate at that, I'm fortunate to serve in the U.S. Navy for one and have that school safety perspective. A huge part of training is how do you respond to what we call the worst day of our lives. And so just bringing that perspective of making sure that we're making our schools the safest that they can be. And in addition to that, we are in a time period where we have 21st century unprecedented problems that we've never seen before. And in our education system. And I'm a product of that system. I went through the school system facing those issues. And so, like was said, we need unique perspectives. And that's a unique perspective that we need on the board to make sure that we're able to make decisions that are going to best serve our students and best make sure that we're putting out a quality workforce. I like to think that no matter who you are in Mesa, if you live in Mesa, you have skin in the game because we have a vested interest in making sure that our students are highly skilled and trained and ready to take on the world, no matter what their path might be.
Thank you. To finish the question, J.R. Wright, 1 minute.
I think the biggest reason that would set me apart is, we've talked about skin in the game. I have 7 children. 4 have graduated from Mesa Public Schools. 3 are currently enrolled. I have a senior, a freshman, and a third grader. My wife's a substitute teacher. I'm the Booster Club president at Westwood High School. We are in the schools day in and day out. We volunteer. We've done that for decades. Our heart is in Mesa Public Schools. We believe in the public school system tremendously. It's been a tremendous blessing in my life, in the lives of my children. And so what sets me apart is my advocacy for your children as though they were my own. I also believe that public schools provides a tremendous, well-rounded education for our children. That it's not all about just academics, but there's sports and clubs and arts and entertainment. And so I'm a strong believer in Mesa Public Schools.
Thank you. We move on to question number 5. So 2 candidates, candidates number 3 and number 6. So Rachel Walden and then Ed Steele will each have 2 minutes. The other candidates in the order following will have 1 minute to answer this question. So we'll start with Rachel Walden. Question is, what priorities will guide your actions as fiscal pressures impact facilities, staffing, programs, and services?
You know, if we were any other organization but government, we would have brought an efficiency expert in here a long time ago. And that's something that's standard out in the private sector, but in the public sector, we don't see that happening so much. There are, from what I've heard and what I've looked at, there are redundancies in staffing. Now, a school board member doesn't hire or fire staff, but certainly our perspective, our professional experience in education, we can help find where those problems are and make recommendations to the superintendent about the changes that we need to make in the district, and also getting an expert in here, if not ourselves. I think there's a lot of professional experience that you've heard tonight. There's something that I think we can offer individually to help find out where that waste is in government. And then fiscal responsibility too, we're talking about spending. We need to see more transparency in spending. I feel like as a citizen, somebody that doesn't have access to all the information, as somebody who's not on the board, that there's not enough transparency in spending and in the budget. And people's eyes get so big when we talk about how much money we've received from the federal government. And we reached a point in education where spending was so high that our legislature had to vote to extend the aggregate expenditure limit that stopped education from being more than half of the state budget. And our entire state is run off of one budget, and we're saying that half of that still isn't enough to run education. There's some problems there. And so we need to be able to see more of where that money is being spent, so we know how we can rein it in. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed Steele will have 2 minutes to answer the question. I'll read it again. What priorities will guide your actions as fiscal pressures impact facilities, staffing, programs, and services? 2 minutes.
There was a lot of attention at the beginning of this year on the aggregate expenditure limit and what happened there. I really think that was a product of mismanagement. The governor extended Prop 301 money back in 2018, but what they didn't do was allow that money to be exempt from the aggregate expenditure limit. That's what that whole thing was about earlier this year. And I think it amounted to about $70 million here in this district. But the problem was, we should have seen that coming. When this money was passed 20 years ago, we knew it had an end date. But I don't think anybody was paying enough attention to that end date. The governor extended it 4 years ago, but nobody realized that they didn't include the exemption of that money from the aggregate expenditure limit. We've got to pay more attention to where the money's coming from. We also need to be more effective with how we use that money. We're taking on more and more federal money, and with that is more and more strings that are causing us to do things we don't want to do in our education system. 4 years ago, this district was receiving about $50 million in federal money. This year, it's over $200 million. Yeah, gosh, we've got to change that. You know, if Congress isn't going to eliminate the Department of Education, we need to find a way to wean ourselves off that money, because that is dirty money. It is not helping our kids. We've got to find a better way to use the money and operate this district without federal money.
Thank you. We will now have the remaining candidates. We'll have 1 minute each to answer the same question. I'll read it again. We go back to candidate number 1 and then go in order. What priorities will guide your actions as fiscal pressures impact facilities, staffing, programs, and services? Jacob Martinez, 1 minute.
As with everything, the first and foremost thing that we need to look at is how do we support our people? We were fortunate during the COVID-19 lockdowns that we didn't have to lay off our staff and our teachers, and other districts did. We need to make sure that our decisions are guided by how we can best support our people. because when we support our people, we support our kids. And that's the number one, that's our number one goal at the end of the day. And so by supporting our people and supporting our kids, we're not just spending money. You know, we're not spending money as a district and it's not going down a drain. It's an investment. It's an investment in Mesa, and it's an investment in our kids, because these are the people who are going to be our doctors, our lawyers, our mechanics. These are the people who are going to run our community in a very short time. So we need to make sure we're continuing to make sure that we're on top of it in terms of what we're allowing our students to do, and making sure that we are that we're opening up as many possibilities as possible for those students to embark on, not less.
Thank you. Same question, 1 minute, J.R. Wright.
Well, I think it's when you look at funding and priorities, to me, it's a pretty simple question. What do we use our priorities on? If our priorities are our teachers and our children, then we can make decisions based on helping teachers and children. We are a shrinking district. The last 10 years, we've lost 10,000 students. We've had to close some schools. We may have to close additional schools. But let's look at this as an opportunity. Ed talked about the $200 million in federal funding. A lot of that is ESSER money that is going away in a couple of years. And we're going to have to, right now we're trying a lot of things out and doing a lot of things with that money. Some are being successful, and some maybe not so successful. We have a critical time right now to see what those dollars have used, what's been successful with those dollars and what hasn't. Let's get rid of what hasn't worked and keep what has worked.
Thank you. Rachel Walden started off the questions. We go on now to Ray Deere. Same question, 1 minute, sir.
Guiding principle I would implement is to be fiscal conservative. We have to be watch care of our funds and know what programs to implement and what programs to eliminate. One issue as to get there, you have to have accountability at all levels. As a school board member, I will not be a rubber stamp for issues that come before me. I will ask probing questions. That's the only way you can do that, to hold superintendency accountable, to ask these probing questions and ask for follow-up, and basically to ask for an internal audit of what's working. One guiding principle that I do is I ask questions: why are we doing this? What is this for? And you'll be surprised of how that turns the tables as far as those who are in charge of funds. They would have to come back and report. And so accountability at all levels would really help. But fiscal conservative, we have to really look at what the programs are doing and if they work, and if we need to implement them further and budget them further or not.
Thank you. I'll read the question one more time. What priorities will guide your actions as fiscal pressures impact facilities, staffing, programs, and services? Marcy Hutchinson, 1 minute.
85% of our budget is people, and our people are our most important resource when it comes to educating our children. So our top priority has to be to retain our people. But it's very difficult to retain our people when we are always at the bottom. I scroll to the bottom, 47th, 48th. In funding in the United States. Our legislature provides most of our finances. This community has provided finances through the override. The ESSER funds prevented layoffs. We kept our people. The ESSER funds are providing $75 million for HVAC. We are going to be able to cool and provide good learning environments for our kids. We have musical instruments we are buying. We are buying library books to modernize our libraries. We are using these funds for tutoring and instructional purposes. They are necessary because we need them as Arizonans, and Mesa in particular.
Thank you. And to finish the question, Chris Hamlet, 1 minute.
Conservative fiscal spending would be a guiding principle for me. Anything that's going to gear towards the betterment of our children, the betterment of the education system. The first thing we need to do is an audit and cut the fat. We need to look at the administration and cut the fat there. If you guys don't know, there's a guy that has a nice corner office on Main Street and in the Mesa Public Schools building, and his sole purpose he's a scientist that they hired, and his sole purpose is for these Mesa Public School surveys. I mean, you would have to convince me the necessity for a position like that. You would have to convince me for the necessity for any seemingly disposable position like that can be delegated to other people. So an audit is going to have to be done. We need to cut the fat and look at getting rid of these SABRs, risk screeners, and the social emotional learning. If we can get all that out and redistribute that money into some proper curriculum, then we can start working with what we've got.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to question 6. Since every other candidate up here has had an opportunity to be 2 minutes and an answer, there's only one candidate that has not. So this next question, Chris Hamlet will be the only candidate that gets 2 minutes. Then we'll go in order. Each candidate gets 1 minute. I feel like Alice Trebek up here. And if any of you want to make it a true daily double, just let us know. Here's the question. From your perspective, what can be done to close the achievement gaps between Mesa Public Schools students? 2 minutes.
To close the achievement
gaps for the students in Mesa Public Schools.
Well, we have to have a set structure. Again, getting the social emotional learning and the SABRs and all of these critical theory components are key. But really what we have to do to bridge that gap is get that Mesa portrait of a graduate and completely eradicate it from the entire Mesa public school system. Because that is the framework for all the critical theory. It is the framework and a conduit for everything that they're teaching our children right now. So we must start with completely eradicating that. It is completely useless. It seems like somebody had too much time on their hands to build some framework so that we can bring all these theories in, and it's got to go. That we need to set structure up, and if we get rid of that and we get all of these things out and get back to basics, bring some possibly 1776 curriculum and mixed with the current STEM that we have in the district, and get back to some basics as well as of education. Our kids don't even know how to read the Declaration of Independence in its original format because we get rid of stuff like handwriting and replace it with social emotional learning and critical race theory components. It's such a disaster, and it's robbing them of a proper education. And it takes people to stand up here, be leaders, and speak out against this nonsense and say, look, this has no educational value. You are not doing anything for our children. You are doing nothing to help them survive in the real world. Let's get back to some civics, some basics, some like I said, some STEM mixed with some 1776 curriculum. You see, we should be teaching politics. We should teach the children about the politics, but we shouldn't be using politics as the lens in which we do teach, right? So we just that's all I've got for you on that one.
Thank you. We'll finish the question starting with candidate number 1 and going in order. Same question from your perspective. What can be done to close the achievement gaps between the Mesa Public Schools students? Jacob Martinez, 1 minute.
This is so important, and unfortunately it was made worse during the COVID-19 lockdowns, where we saw the achievement gap between students and between our different communities that we just have here in Mesa. It grew. And this is where it comes in. This is where that being diligent about who we're serving and how we're serving the communities that we're supposed to serve, that's where this comes into play, and that's where it's so important. Because there is no cookie cutter approach to education, especially now. We have a vast and very diverse community, and we need to be mindful of how that community is best going to learn. We have an education system right now that, to be quite frank, it's archaic. And we need to make sure that we're doing more to bring that education system into the 21st century and making it so that these students have opportunities and have the opportunities to learn in a way that's going to best fit them. Because these students are going to go to whatever career or path that they go on, and they need to be prepared for that, not a cookie cutter approach.
Thank you. Same question, 1 minute, J.R. Wright.
First of all, I'm not an expert on closing the gap of education, but I will say I am an expert on listening to teachers and administrators on how to best do that. And as a board member, we need to be able to listen to our teachers because they can tell us what's happening in the classroom. Not all students achieve the same way. They learn differently. And what I love about Mesa Public Schools is they're doing things to help students learn in a variety of ways. We just toured Sousa Elementary School last week, and I was inspired by this next generation workforce that we have a collaboration with ASU. teachers were teaching together, collaborating together. 3 classrooms were going on at the same time. It was inspiring to see teachers collaborating together. That's what's going to help bridge the gap, is taking all this stuff away from the garbage away from teachers and allow them to teach and collaborate with each other, and their satisfaction will help that more than anything, I believe.
Thank you. What can be done to close the achievement gaps in Mesa Public Schools? 1 minute, Rachel Walden.
We need to take the tone and focus of the district back to academic achievement. If our children can master the fundamentals of learning, there is no limit to what they can learn in the future. We need to look back at Mesa schools, what happened when we had the highest literacy rates in the state, when we were the best district in the state, and evaluate and learn from history. What were we doing well back then that our literacy rates were higher, and why has it dropped year after year? And we need to also allow our teachers to set their own goals for how they're going to help the children master those fundamentals, the English language arts and the math. That's where their focus should be. Right now, the district is setting goals for the teacher, and a lot of those goals focus on things like social emotional learning, things in Portrait of a Graduate. Why don't we let teachers set those goals for academic achievement? The district is doing some things very well, like seat time flexibility. I'm excited to see where that goes. We do have other options, but we still need to bring it back to academics in the end.
Thank you. Same question, Ray Deer, 1 minute.
Class size reduction. We need to get our classes to at least 20 or below. That way, the teacher can implement and have that specialized teaching level with the students. If you can get class size reduction, and along with teacher assistants, you'll have miracles. You'll be able to have your small groups, even at the middle school level. We did the we visited Red Mountain. They had implemented at the high school level small groups, and that was really great to see. And it's the teachers were able to go around and implement whatever teaching modality that they had, and the students were engaged. They were able to open up as far as being in a 30 to 40 plus classroom. You're not going to get engagement. And so class size reduction would be really helpful to close the gap. Also, I would implement parental involvement. I would ask each school site, what are they doing this week to implement parental involvement?
Thank you. What can be done to close the achievement gap in Mesa Public School students? Marcy Hutchinson, 1 minute.
Our people need to have focus, and the Portrait of a Graduate provides that focus. The Portrait of a Graduate came from this community. Over 4 years, we held neighborhood meetings, we had surveys, we asked parents, teachers, we asked students, what did they want in a graduate, a Mesa Public School graduate? Being ethical, inclusive, resilient. Our business community told us they wanted collaborators, communicators, people who were critical thinkers, creative thinkers. We need to make sure that our teachers can teach. And by hiring more social workers, more counselors, more nurses, more psychologists, we take things off the plate of teachers and allow them to teach. Then they can listen to neighborhoods. Then they can listen to communities. And we can specialize programming like AVID, agri-science, arts integration, CTE, and meet the needs of our children.
Thank you. To finish the question, Ed Steele.
Public education has become unnecessarily complicated. And all we do when we do these surveys and run these research projects is complicate it more. So a recent ASU survey said that the average teacher must maintain 172 competencies. That's ridiculous. And so now they're using that to justify this next education workforce, which may be a great program, but it's being implemented because we've overcomplicated the old system that's worked for decades. I recently came across a research project, and here's what it says. Compelling research demonstrates what parents have always known. This was 28 PhD scientists doing research to come up with what parents already know. How about we just start asking the parents?
Thank you. We are going to go in order now to finish with 2 minutes for each candidate, starting with Marcy Hutchinson. Each candidate will have 2 minutes. Please share your final thoughts about your candidacy for the governing board. 2 minutes.
I want to thank the Chamber again, and thank you, Mike, for hosting. Our schools provide the mortar that supports strong families, the foundation of this strong community. In Mesa, public education isn't a cost, it's an investment. It's an investment we make in our economy, it's an investment we make in our democracy and in each other. And governing board members have worked to uphold Mesa's strong legacy of public education. But our schools face many challenges. Student and staff wellness, recruitment and retention of great employees, and an increasing poverty rate. We must meet the challenges and ensure that the Mesa Public School promise that every student is known by name, served by strength and need, and graduates ready for college, career, and community. Like others who serve our students, I am committed to this promise. Based on the promise, I am determined to increase the percent of students who are proficient in grade level standards and who graduate on time by advancing community literacy, workforce development, arts education, and providing multiple avenues for student success. My experiences as an MPS parent, teacher, an ASU faculty member, public education advocate, and MPS governing board member have prepared me to work tirelessly with others to fulfill our promise. Please vote to keep me, Marcy Hutchinson, on the governing board. It would be an honor to continue to serve our kids in this community.
Thank you. Before we go on to Mr. Steele, we have a clock issue going on. Each candidate sees a clock in front of them that says 1 or 2 minutes. In front of you, it may say 1 minute, but it will reset so you get your 2 minutes. I just don't want you to be confused as you finish up. Please share your final thoughts about your candidacy for the governing board. 2 minutes, Ed Steele.
Okay. I want to go back to talk about why I'm running and what I'm going to bring to this job. I graduated with a degree in electrical engineering. That's a tough road. You know, it's a lot of math, it's a lot of problem solving. I want to bring that skill set to this board. I think that's one of the things that's lacking is robust vetting of what's going on, what's coming into the district. You know, the board votes on a consent agenda, and there may be 2 items, there may be 10 items. My question is, are we really looking at what's going on? And can we put objective measures in these programs that are going to allow us to decide and determine objectively how these things impact our students' education outcomes? I just don't see that going on the board. Some programs have it, but a lot of them do not. I want to bring, you know, again, I used to be a process engineer. I own the process from the inputs to what went on to what came out. I own that. And I'll tell you, if I was putting out a process that delivered 50% proficiency, I wouldn't have my job very long. This district has suffered from low proficiency rates in the very basics, the fundamental things that our kids need to learn before they graduate. We've got to ensure that. I'm going to bring those skills to this district. I'm going to demand accountability to these students. Vote for Ed Steele. Help me get on this board. Help me help our children.
Thank you. Final thoughts of your candidacy, 2 minutes, Chris Hamlet.
Excuse me. The overarching theme among parents when I was out there on the campaign trail is that they want another parent that's paying attention, that knows what's going on at the grassroots level. So they're looking for parents. I am a parent. This is my second child, like I said. That I have an enormous advantage in that I have the hindsight. I can look back and see, okay, I see what they did with my daughter. I can understand not to do that with my son. People keep talking about this mental health crisis, but it's a fabricated mental health crisis. It is caused by allowing these garbage policies in here. So we keep saying that there's an increase in mental health issues, and that's correct. There is. In fact, if you look at gender dysphoria and people that are having sexual orientation issues, they're 19 times more likely to commit suicide. So we bring policies in that will make our kids worse, knowing these statistics, and then wondering why we need more mental health professionals. You see how the big cycle works. It is time for people to get in here. It's time for someone like myself to get in here and stand up for this and say, look, we've had enough of this. Let's get back to some basic education. Let's get rid of these theories in the first place. They shouldn't even be here. But when we have a mental health crisis, it's because of our own issues. Then we're throwing money at it as opposed to funneling that money and diverting it back into the teachers, back into where it can help the children. So we need people here to stand up and stand against these policies. Stop going with the status quo. You've heard a lot of people up here speak tonight. You can tell they have the same old politician talk. It's called the status quo. If that's what you want, you can keep voting for that individual. If you want to change it and you want somebody to fight for our children that won't fail them, then vote for me. My name is Chris Hamlet. My website is chrishamletforschoolboard.com. God bless you all. Have a good night.
Thank you. Final thoughts about your candidacy. 2 minutes, Jacob Martinez.
Thank you, and thank you to the Chamber and to Mr. Broomhead for hosting us tonight. As a community, we need to embody the people that we serve and the communities that we serve. And that's what I'm trying to do. We need to be mindful of the diverse and wide array of people that we have here in Mesa Public Schools, no matter who they are, what their background is, or what their story is. It's saddening, how many students are dying right now. It really is. And so we need to do a lot of work to combat that and to make sure that as a district, we're being mindful of that. Because this isn't just, a talk for governing board candidates, but it really is, the future of some kids' lives. And we need to do everything we can to make sure that they continue to live their life and continue to do what they need to do to be successful. And that's what we're trying to do. We have very unprecedented 21st century problems that we haven't had before. We haven't had soaring depression rates. We haven't had soaring suicide rates in the past. And we need to address that. And I'm fortunate to be a product of that time period and that era to bring that perspective to the board. I'm not running to be superintendent. I'm running to add a voice to a board and to a discussion to make sure that all perspectives are happening, are present, and that those conversations are happening with all needed information in mind. I'm hopeful that, with the support of the Mesa community, I'll just be another voice to add to that discussion and make sure that we're being mindful of these decisions and being mindful of this unprecedented time and scary time, to be quite honest, that we're living in. And adding to that discussion, but really it's a discussion that's already started, and we just need to continue now with the great staff that we have here in Mesa Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Final thoughts, J.R. Wright, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you to the Chamber. And I also want to thank our wonderful candidates up here. I've sure learned a lot and appreciate their comments tonight. I think I've been asked a lot, what's your agenda? What's your axe to grind on the school board? And one of the reasons I was kind of hesitant to run for the school board is I didn't have an axe to grind. I don't have a personal agenda. And to me, that's a wonderful thing. I think being a board member, it's a blessing to have 5 board members and have 5 different perspectives that you can all come together and work on things that we all want, right? Great education, great outcomes for our children. I'm excited to listen to the community, to listen to the community on the ball field, at church, around town. Mesa's been my home for 50 years next month, and it's also my children's home. It's where we've chosen to put our roots, and my roots run really deep here in Mesa. I'm also excited to be the sounding board for the superintendency, for teachers, and our community to all work together to make the best decisions for the Mesa School Board. I have a business background. I have an MBA from Arizona State University. I'm a small business owner. And so I have a unique perspective to evaluate budgets, to make good decisions that'll accomplish what we all want. I think students need to have a clear understanding of who they are. They need to understand what they want to do, and then they need to have a clear direction of where they want to go in life. And I would be honored to be an advocate for your children. Please vote for J.R. Wright for school board. My website is wrightformesa.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Final thoughts, Rachel Walden, 2 minutes.
So I am going to put students first. I'm going to put academic achievement first. I'm going to listen to parents, and I'm going to listen to teachers. And because I have been listening, I can tell you that that's what they want. They want their children to be able to read and do math at the level that they are in school. But we are seeing instances where students are being passed from grade level to grade level, and by the time they graduate, they are nowhere near ready to enter the world. So first and foremost, that's where I'm talking about tutoring so much, and ways that we can develop an ability to meet that learning loss, because there's simply not enough time in a classroom to get students caught up. So we have to find other ways that we can give parents the opportunity to reach them. It's also a really divisive time for students. There's so many opposing voices out there in the world. And I believe that we can be united under a shared value system that we have in this country. Now, the district has committees for various things. I think we could have a 1776 committee where we bring teachers and people from the community that can help find ways that we can bring American history and American values into the classroom and help our kids see that we are united in the quest for freedom and the quest to uphold the dignity and the cause of freedom in each individual out there. We are all important. And I think that message is getting lost in the rhetoric that they hear from social media and their friends and all these opposing voices. And I'm excited to see, I mentioned seat time flexibility. I'm excited at the prospect of seeing that and getting involved in that. And that's the ability where students can be able to get credit outside of the classroom so we can meet different needs of different learners. So they don't have to just get everything in class. They could go take classes elsewhere or be involved in programs elsewhere and use those credits to help them get the skills that they need and graduate.
Thank you. Final thoughts, Ray Deere, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you to Mesa Chamber of Commerce and Mr. Broomhead for moderating. I want to run for school board because I want our children to be lifelong learners, ready for the real world, so to speak, when they reach 18 and when they graduate. We have to get our children to graduation. If we can do that, we've done our job as school board members and as teachers and all school personnel. Also, I got to look at student outcomes. Student outcomes must increase throughout the district. We can visit different school sites and see what works and what doesn't. Also, at every school site, I believe that school safety is a priority, not only from the outside world, so to speak, but within the district. All the strife and fights need to stop. I get emails all the time at various schools that there's something happening, something happened here within the school. We need to support our school personnel so that our schools can walk the halls in safety and not have to worry about any other issues but other than just to learn. There has to be a paradigm shift throughout Mesa Public Schools. That paradigm shift has to be accountability at all levels. Superintendency, administrators, teachers, parents, and students. And As a school board member, I will bring that perspective of a teacher, of a parent of Mesa Public Schools, and also as a former school board member, and also one who will hold people accountable. As a school board member, I will be a team player. I will not be a rubber stamp for issues that come before the Mesa Public School Board, but I will ask probing questions. And you will have my vote so long as the issues at hand are not illegal or unethical. And I will strive my best to be that helping hand to all of Mesa Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we conclude, I just want to say I have the privilege of being involved in things all over the valley, and there are very few groups of people like the Chamber of Commerce in Mesa, and especially Sally Harrison, that do so much to better their community. You're very lucky to have her, and I want to say thank you, Sally, for hosting this, and your team. What a great job. And finally, why don't we thank these candidates for giving up their night tonight and for their candidacy, so thank you all. This is going to conclude the forum. We are going to ask that the candidates stay seated for just a few moments. They want to take a couple of pictures. So please stay there, but hang around, meet the candidates. And again, thank you all for coming and your interest in the candidacy for all these fine people. Thank you. Oh, you want me up?